How special. We got Dr. Producer Suzanne here today. Wow, this is exciting.
I'm so excited to be here with you today. Yay!
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to No Vacancy Live. Really excited to have you folks with us today. I'm also, I got to be honest, a little excited because we got Dr. Producer Suzanne up front in the show today. I'm Glenn Hausman. So Anthony's not here today because he just got to South Florida to go hang out with you. You guys are going to that South Beach Food and Wine Festival brought to you by the folks at FIU, aren't you?
We are. We're really excited. There's a lot that's actually happening down here in Miami. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, there's still an opportunity. And check us out on the sand. That's where we'll be in a little while.
Thanks for reminding me about that. I'll be dealing with the remnants of the snow over here. All right. So one of the things that I love, Suzanne, is just telling some fun, different types of stories, right? You know, you get all of the typical people on, but what about the people who didn't mean to fall in love with hospitality, but fell in love with hospitality so much they went ahead and bought an old hotel and then created a brand new, awesome property. So today we're going to be speaking with Mr. Jim Nagle, owner of the Drake Oak Brook. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for inviting me on the show, Glenn.
Yeah, this is great. I'm so excited to see you here. So not only is it a hotel, but it's got an independent spirit, but it's part of the autograph collection with Marriott. So that already tells me to get that kind of branding on it. You need to have put a lot of love and effort into it. We'll get to that in just one second. Jim, you used to be a lawyer, used to be a bus driver. What haven't you done?
No, I've kind of take me where my interests lie. I was a practicing lawyer for 25 years, and I took a pro bono case in '93 to write the Constitution for Bosnia during the war.
What?
Through that experience, met a really interesting gentleman who became my partner. Typical story was, left communist Yugoslavia after they took his property, came here with nothing and built a fortune in multifamily residential. And then he was putting his money back into Bosnia, where his family still was. Wow.
That's so where do you go from there?
Well, from there, we started, we came back. He said, "Hey, Jim, I'd love you to be my lawyer." And I said, "I've always been interested in real estate. And I find it amazing how you came to this country, with $1. Right. You built this empire. I'd rather be your partner." So we ended up buying a lot of properties together. The first one was an old warehouse on the north side of Chicago. And I ended up converting it into a charter school.
Wow. And, that's pretty clever.
Right. So that was my first experience in commercial real estate.
Wow. So that's really fascinating to me. So why hotels? Why that asset class? Because honestly, we talk to all of the leading owners, operators, and developers here every single day on No Vacancy Live, but we're all kind of that same sense of mind, right? So what attracted you to this class of real estate as opposed to going ahead and building, I don't know, Professor Xavier's School for the Gifted or something?
Well, no, we had owned every type of asset class in real estate, multifamily, retail, office, industrial. And the Drake had been around. I was very familiar with it. My grandfather used to take us here in the 1960s for Easter Sunday.
Wow.
And the people in Chicago are very familiar with the Drake. There's two hotels, the one on Michigan Avenue, that opened over 100 years ago. And then the same owners in the 60s opened up this hotel. So I just had an affinity for it. It had been shut down. It had gone through. There was some fraud involved. The previous owner ended up in the federal penitentiary. So
if I had $1 for every time I heard that story. That's pretty cool. Keep going, please.
No, so I never intended to get into hospitality, but life takes interesting turns. And a couple years before this property was available, I was able to spend a week with Richard Branson on his Necker Island. And this is when he was taking these people in outer space.
Right.
He eventually, was successful last year, but this was at the very beginning of that. And there was 20 of us. I was the only one that wasn't interested in going into space, but we got to spend the week with Branson. And all this gentleman kept talking about was his Virgin brand. I had never heard the word brand used as much as I had that week, as a noun, as a verb, as an adjective. and that really left a mark on me, because when this hotel came up, all the hoteliers, the real estate people in this side of the business took a pass on it because it was dilapidated.
All right. So let me just put a pin in that for 1 second, because I can't get past the branding part. And that is one of the things that are so essential. So you're there, you're hearing about this. And my guess is a light bulb kind of went off in your head, right? Because you started to understand the fundamentals of what something like, which would eventually be the Drake, could mean, and how that could connect with customers and create, your whole kind of imagery behind it. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
It's exactly what it was. And I'm a lifelong Chicagoan, so
I could not tell by the accent, by the way. Did not give it away.
I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
Hey, listen. Hey, forget about it. I'm from New York over here, so no worries.
Actually, when we down the road, we realized, knowing nothing about hotels, that I needed a brand. I thought, this is how clueless I was when we bought it.
Yeah, but you needed a brand, but you wound up having two brands, but one of them isn't really a brand. They're just kind of helping your brand, the Drake.
Well, exactly. That's the beautiful of the soft brand with the autograph collection. And Marriott was reluctant at first to let us into the autograph collection. At that time, there was about 180 hotels around the world, none of which were in the suburbs.
Right.
And I think they were worried with the amount of money we had to put in, there wouldn't be a return because the rates out here are cheaper than they are in the city.
Well, also, to be fair, you're not a proven hotelier with a track record. So I could think of a number of developers that work with Marriott right now that if they had the same conversation, they'd be like, all right, you've already done X amount of projects, 10, 15, 20, whatever it is, we'll go with it. So that's a much easier sell. So you really had to do a lot of convincing, because a company like Marriott is very, very protective over their brand and the image that they're sending. So that's interesting that they'd never done something out in the suburbs before. So what was that like, trying to get the monolith to see things your way, Jim?
Well, their team came out and for a PIP, and they weren't saying yes, they weren't saying no. Right. And we ended up, my wife and I get on a plane going out to Vegas in May for the ICSC, because we knew Marriott would be out there. We went to the booth, introduced ourselves, and said, "Hey guys, is it yes or is it no? Give us an answer." Right. And the next day, one of the on the development team called me up, and he shared his reluctance, and I totally understood it. Yeah. And I explained to him, "Look, I know nothing about hotels, but they were developing their new brand, the Delta." And I said, "But I can tell you this, you guys can spend $1 billion on the Delta, and people in Chicago are still going to think it's an airline or a faucet." Right. Everyone in Chicago knows what the Drake is. It's that hotel your grandparents take you to at Christmas time.
Absolutely.
And the brand runs, and think of Chicago. We've lost so many iconic brands: Marshall Field, Sears. Right.
Sorry, but I still call it the Sears Tower. So, yep.
And we've lost a lot of brands. And I think people in Chicagoland are fiercely, loyal to the brands that they love. And we just had to bring it back better than it ever was before.
All right. So you're going to bring it back whatever before. And that means you've got to go ahead and do a PIP, a property improvement plan, coming up with something that really explains how it is all done. So you finally get them to get yes. What was that process like? How much had to be redone by a dilapidated building that was somehow the victim of a Ponzi scheme?
Everything. I mean, from pulling all the old cloth wiring to, new HVAC, new windows, everything was redone. I mean, it had great bones. The structure itself, they don't build these buildings like that anymore. So, and I think Marriott was leery because they thought it would be too expensive, but we had paid it for our basis was very low. Right. And I have my own construction team. So, and my wife is tremendously gifted and frugal. She's originally from Mexico. So we ended up going down to Mexico and getting a lot of the furniture and artwork.
Which makes a lot of sense. I would say outside of China, Mexico is probably the number one country that goods for hotels are coming through at this point. That's anecdotal, but I'm pretty sure that's an actual fact over there.
No, I think you're right, Glenn. I think down in Guadalajara, it's the furniture capital of North America.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, so I love learning stuff over here. Susie, I feel like I'm hogging the microphone over here, but I tend to.
So what was the renovation experience like? How long did it take? And then how did you get yourselves ramped up to embrace taking on local employees to get the property staffed?
Well, we bought it in the end of 13, opened in 15 as an independent. And then we went through the Marriott process to become an autograph and opened up half the building. There's 2 buildings. So we were able to open up the annex and the lobby and all the common spaces in February of 2020. And for 3 weeks, we were off to the races. We thought, man, life is good. And then COVID came.
Ouch.
But for us, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Everyone was advising us. We had just ramped up with all new employees for the autograph.
Right.
And the management company, our accountant, everyone was telling us to furlough everyone. But the building that's behind you, Glenn, those rooms still were not finished.
Right.
And so what we did was we kept every employee on.
Right.
And with my construction team, so we had cooks, housekeepers that we converted to help us with the PIP. So
Awesome.
they were painting, tiling. And it's interesting. Some of them learned new skills and left hospitality and went into the trades.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting aspect in really keeping them and supporting them, but just giving them that option. It's fantastic.
And I think it ended up having so many beneficial effects that we never even dreamed of. Who would have thought it was going to be such a problem to bring in labor? But after this, when we showed our loyalty to our team, and they show up back to us and our guests with their love every day. So we've never had a problem after that hiring. We put up a position. We have 60 people now.
Wow.
I would also think that from some level, for those that stayed, they even have a more definitive story to tell of your brand and your property for the guests that are coming in.
Suzanne, you couldn't be more correct. And we have a nice base of clientele. We have business owners, CEOs, and so many of them come up to me and my wife and say, it's unbelievable. Your bartender knows the whole story. It's like she's an owner. And they do. And
she literally installed the bar. So.
Exactly. And so for COVID for us, obviously, within our little cocoon at the hotel was a wonderful experience that everyone just came more together. We built a beautiful product.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. So speaking of building an incredible product, one of the cool things, and you've already alluded to this, when you have a building that's a historic structure, in this case, a classic hotel, you've got those cool bones that you were talking about, but also you had the freedom to recreate something. So what was that process like, trying to capture the spirit and authenticity of what the Drake originally was, but appeal towards a modern audience with different wants, desires, and technological needs of today?
I feel like you were sitting in on all the meetings. That was the meetings we had every time. It's how do we?
Jim, I'll tell you, I wish I was, because I would love to consult on a project like this or something. It'd be so freaking cool. But go on, please.
It's fascinating that you just said that, because we had so many conversations, and our thought was, it's so generational. Is the new generation, the question we kept asking ourselves, so different from my grandparents' generation, from this? And so we, through the Marriott process, we went through a branding process, and then picked one of their designers that my wife and I work closely with. And I think they just nailed it. We've gotten so many awards. We were listed as one of Condé Nast top 50 hotels in the world in 2022. And we just brought in people that were smarter than us, was the answer to that, more creative than us. And they did a phenomenal job. And I think part of it was when we first saw the renderings, like, wow, that's different. We never would have thought of that. But once we started building it and it really came together, it was, I think everyone's really happy with the outcome.
Yeah. Did you work with the with Marriott proper for the design? Because I know they have the in-house design crew, or did you work with an outside?
Well, the
agency?
process is we have to go through an outside that does all the day-to-day work, but at the same time, we're working with a designer from Marriott who was a super talented young woman, Allison. That we just embrace the whole process, and these people are so creative, thinking of things we never would have thought of, and I think the designers and Allison and everyone just worked really well together. And actually, we're just opening up a new restaurant downstairs next week. She came out, I don't know, a couple months ago and gave us another fabulous ideas that we had never thought of. So we're so happy with Marriott. They really have talented people on their team.
That's awesome. Suzanne?
I was going to say, I love that spirit of, you might not know, and you openly admitted that going into this project, you didn't know anything about hotel operations or management, but it's about finding those right people, as you say, that are smarter than you, that can bring to the table that piece that you're lacking to make an experience and an opportunity exist. So talk about some of the lessons that you learned in this process, and if you had to do it again, what would you do differently, or are you inspired to find another dilapidated building and start it all over again?
Well, how we got into this initially was during the recession in 08, 09, I had over 1 million square feet of commercial property that was 70% vacant.
Wow.
And 3 of our local community banks went under. So we were forced. I thought I was going to be a passive investor, keep trying cases, practicing law.
Right.
I'd get a tenant, go to the bank, get the money, hire a general. And we were forced to learn all this ourselves. So we took, what started as maintenance men building out a sporting goods store. And we just kept going and bringing on more people to the team and got better and better at it. And I think so. The biggest lesson is a lot of times when you're in those tough, challenging times, like COVID or the recession of 09, you think it's, oh my gosh, how did I get here? This is awful. But looking in retrospect, sometimes it's the best thing that could have happened to you. It forces you to think differently, outside the box. I think it helped us out a lot that my wife and I came from outside hospitality. And sometimes you need a fresh look. We did things, when we had apartment buildings, make the mistake, you put carpet in. It looks great for 6 months. You end up losing money 3 years later. So we did in our apartments and put in beautiful hardwood floors, herringbone.
Right.
And when I suggested this to the designer, they were like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't like carpet." And so they're like, "Wow, you're going to do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, we do it ourselves." So we put in beautiful herringbone floors.
Yep. And I'm sure you've got a pretty awesome LVT product with the Drake.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So coming from the outside, what is one epiphany that you had that you're like, oh, I get it, that somebody shared with you from the hospitality business when you were in it?
I think it comes down to this. You can do it right with the PIP, the decorations, the marble, the wood, the artwork. But in this industry, people make people happy. And I heard Steve Wynn, was fortunate enough to see him give a speech years ago. And he talked about people making people happy. And it's so true. And I think when we showed the love it was a real struggle to keep everyone employed, coming out of a retirement account, putting payroll on your credit card. And they understood this and they show it back every day to the customers, to us, our team members. So, and it's so true. People make people happy. We have my stepson is now the GM. He's an engineer. Started.
Oh, cool.
Down low. My stepdaughter, Carla, is started at the front desk. Learned that whole. Now she's our top seller for weddings. We do over 100 weddings a year.
That's amazing.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so it's nice that we have some family working here as well.
So Anna is asking, hey, Jim, any properties in New York City? And while you don't, could you, have you thought about expanding the Drake brand maybe somewhere else?
Yeah, we are looking, and we've discussed it with Marriott. We were looking at a property in Snowmass right before COVID. We think it's such a wonderful brand. And in terms of New York City, I
steep barrier of entry.
Well, that and there's always deals out there, but
Yeah.
After this verdict with Trump, how are you the investors that are looking to put your capital there? I agree with.
Well, I would say if you don't commit a crime, then you probably don't have to do the time. So I don't know. I don't know anyone else in New York that's ever had a problem like this that was honest. So what are you going to do? I will say, Jim, there's a lot of opportunities, I think, to bring this type of product to suburban locations. So I think you're really on to something, particularly with the way that people have started to travel outside urban environments to do business and enjoy leisure. How do you see it?
You're spot on. And I think take New York or Illinois, for example. I'm an elected official in town. And I noticed when I was campaigning, all the people I thought were residents are actually Florida residents.
Yep.
And so what we're doing now, and as you're sitting down in beautiful Florida, what we came to realize is there's a real demand for hotel residents in a city like Oak Brook, where we have so many people raise their families, very wealthy people, but now they live in Florida for 6 months in a day. They want to come back, but they don't want the 5,000 square foot house. They don't want the taxes that accompany it. So we have plans for a luxury 5-story hotel residence, kind of like the same Regis model. Where they stay in it, or when they're not there, lease it out through the
Jim, it's so funny. It's like the world has forgotten like so many hotels were residences also, particularly in like places like New York City and other big cities there. Everyone lived in hotels, it seemed. That's where, all the cool people were hanging out back in the day. And I'm surprised we lost that kind of vibe. And we're seeing that kind of come back through extended stay products and stuff, but not in the way that you're talking about.
Oh, we want to do these. It really comes out to each floor is 2 stories with a mezzanine.
Yep.
The code allows us to do with 20-foot windows. We overlook the Prince of Wales polo fields and Butler National. King Charles played here. So we have phenomenal views. And there's really a need for that. And most of them are married couples. Their kids are still here. They want to come back during the summer for 3 or 4 months, but they don't want all the headaches of, having a single family home.
Yeah.
So, my wife and I live here. We never thought it was, but having the amenities, the luxury property, the coffee shop, the room service, the housekeeping, it's really nice.
I'll tell you, I just had the fortunate opportunity to do an awesome speaking gig down in Miami with our friends over at SH Hotels, and I was at the One Hotel South Beach, and they have residences there too, and you could see like how they made the property their home as well, like the lobby and the coffee shop and all of that kind of stuff. And you can see the difference between us transient peeps and the folks that felt like they had ownership, which they literally do over the place.
Right. And I think, I'm at the tail end of the baby boomers. There's a real demand for that. We're talking to people every day. We should have our drawings in the next 60 days.
Yeah. So. That's awesome. So coming out of this at the other end, what is one thing that you learned in the process that you'll never do again?
Wow. Run for office. No.
Yeah. That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, no. The one thing I would never do again. Wow.
Yeah, because we want people to learn, because we all make mistakes and stuff. So
absolutely, we made our share of mistakes.
Of course.
I think it comes down like everything, and I've made it before. You try to save a penny, and it costs you $10.
Yes, totally. Yeah,
and I think that just comes into, like the branding people, the design people. There's some people that just do it every day, and you have to just rely on them.
Yep.
That they're, so the key is to always bring in people that are smarter than you.
Yeah.
Which in my case, isn't that hard.
So tell me now one thing on the opposite, something that you were like either super pleasantly surprised by or something you didn't think would work. And then you're like, oh, this is really cool.
Well, this is a great question. Yeah. It really comes down to this. I knew when we started this, think of the husband and wives that get in a fight because they redo their bathroom or their kitchen.
Right.
And going into it, I thought, oh, wow, this is, my wife and I are full partners on this. we're going to be living, breathing this every day. And of course, there were some differences, but for me, working as a lawyer, working in real estate, I really enjoyed that my wife was my full partner on this deal, and pleasantly surprised because I, not that we didn't have a great marriage, which we do, but it could really put it to the test when you go, hey, we're going to take a abandoned property, just the two of us.
Right.
When we first moved in, we were the only ones in the hotel.
Yeah, dude. And not only that, but it's like being married's great, but you didn't necessarily sign up to be with that person every waking moment. So when you don't have that delineation and you're working and then have your personal life, there could be challenges. So that's good that you were able to avoid that. You guys saw eye to eye.
I think not that I, was that surprised, but you see,
I'd be.
I saw my partner next to me practice divorce law for years, and I always, coffee breaks or lunch, it's like the people are getting divorced for the craziest things that they couldn't work it out together. And it's like, no, so I'm very happy that she turned out to be a great business partner, not just a great wife.
That's awesome. All right. So one question, feel free to tell us to piss off if you don't want to answer this, but Mr. Cards wants to know, do you micromanage? Because a lot of people want to do everything themselves. I have that problem. Right? I get yelled at all the time for touching buttons that I'm not supposed to when the producer is supposed to be doing it, for example. But if you have people that you trust, you should let them do it. So how do you see that?
When it comes to the construction, I absolutely, probably my weakness is micromanaging. But when it comes to the operation,
or is that attention to details? Because like Steve Wynn would look at something, and if it was one little bit off, he'd change it. Shit, when they opened up like Encore, I remember they had this restaurant called Switch, and pretty quickly they didn't think it was working, so they switched it out, literally, right?
Yeah,
so,
we ate there. My wife and I ate there. I know what you're talking about, but I think that's what it is. It's just an attention to detail. We're, like I say, building out a beautiful restaurant. We're going to reinvent the restaurant experience. So we're putting in big digital boards and an incredible sound system that it's kind of like a Tao, but with phenomenal tapas, food, and because you have so many weddings and everything. So we're finishing that up, and it is really, down to every inch of the space. But for the management of the hotel, I mean, we hired, a really solid management company, First Hospitality. And I think I learned early on, hey, step back. I don't want to, especially since we're living here, I don't want to, step over their toes, how they're managing. So we just let them go ahead and manage, and they've done a phenomenal job.
That is awesome. I want to thank David Duncan and his awesome team for having me as their keynote speaker at their event a couple of weeks ago in Toledo. I didn't see you there, Glenn, but we won the Hotel of the Year. So First Hospitality gave us that. I missed the award ceremony. Nothing against going to award ceremonies, but I go to a lot of these events, and I can't, I don't want to sit in a room for 3 hours and all of that. I can't handle it. I've got a little attention span problems over there, but that's pretty cool. I wish I'd seen you there, man. That hotel was really good too. And I don't know if you had a chance to enjoy any of their food and beverage, but they had a pretty good food program there.
Oh, it's phenomenal. It was, talking about the Renaissance and Toledo.
Toledo. Yeah.
And so they, the night of the award ceremony is 350. Their team did a phenomenal job. The food was great. The service was even better. So it was a great night. Yeah, it sure was. Well, I hope that I get a chance to see you at the Drake in Oak Brook. Hopefully one day we'll get out there. Maybe we could do a live show from your place or something like that, which would be really awesome. Oh, we'd love to have you out here. I think the thing that we have, we just really took advantage. We sit on 20 acres and we're overlooking 500 acres. So we built all kinds of waterfalls around the property. And then this spring, my wife's uncle was the cardinal for all of Mexico. He almost became Pope when John Paul II died. And we were able to get the drawings from the Vatican Gardens. So we're going to recreate the Vatican Gardens here at the Drake. Oh my God. All right. So yeah, we gotta go. Let us know when it's ready. We're road tripping. That's pretty freaking awesome. Jim, thank you so much for being here. Before you go, give us a good plug for your hotel. No, I stop by we do everything. We call it from the womb to the tomb. We have baby showers, celebration of life. We're very community oriented. Our roots run deep. 65% of our business is F&B, and we're running at 85% occupancy. So that tells you the amount of, we're really just an anchor for the community. We always have been. That's what attracted me to the property. I remember being 6 years old when my grandfather took me here. And I think that was a big reason that we bought the property.
I wish we, all right, so let's just spend another minute or two on this particular subject, because I know we got to go, but I got to hammer this home to everybody. These are the projects that I like most. When you become part of that community, that's what makes them financially viable. When you have that community coming to eat, drink, and celebrate, that's pretty awesome formula. So you kind of had that sense that that was going to be ahead of time?
Absolutely. But we didn't think it would grow this much. You know, our capacity for, say, Easter or Mother's Day is 1,400. We do the 1,400 and we turn away 2,000 people. So there's just a real affinity for this property, for this brand. People have great memories about it. And I think, you know, that was the key to bring those people back. We're doing 3rd-generation weddings here now.
Wow. That's really cool. Maybe I'll do my 3rd wedding there.
Yeah, but it's not uncommon. We come, the grandmother, the mother, and the bride all got married at the Drake.
So amazing. I love that.
And they have to consider that, you know, when you pick out a venue, you always tell someone, you know, keep in mind, you know, you're 22 years old, but you want to come back when you're 62. Yeah, your kids and your grandkids, and they have the venue still here.
Right. Listen, Jim, it hurts me every single time I think about how the John Peel room is gone from when I had my bar mitzvah over there back in 1983. So I'd love to be able to go back there and have a meal, you know?
Yeah, so everyone would. Everyone loves that. It's part of your life. It's one of the biggest days. You pick out those biggest days in your life, and people never forget that. Yeah,
Jim, keep a lookout for those brides that are multi-generational, that are wearing the dress that the matriarch from the previous generation wore. That'll make a good social media post and stuff
we've had absolutely.
Of course you have.
It's amazing. They look phenomenal. These brides are, you know. We love weddings. You know, who doesn't love weddings? So,
yeah, right. Maybe me back in my saltier days. Then, you know, then I got married, and I appreciated the love. Lean, I love you. All right, everybody. Thank you, Jim. You rock. I really enjoyed this conversation with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Glenn, and great meeting you, Suzanne.
My pleasure. Look
Take care. Do me a favor. We'll put you in the back. Let us just wrap up, and then we'll give you an official goodbye. All right. Thanks. I want to thank all of you guys for being here. I know Suzanne's got to run. She's got to go hang out with Anthony and drink cocktails and eat food on the beach while
no, I feel like 30 burgers in one setting is just way too many. But we'll see what I can manage.
I don't know. I may get some takeout Chinese. We'll see. Anybody, I want you guys to follow us. Make sure you follow us at No Vacancy News, NoVacancyNews.com. Follow us on YouTube, and also subscribe for the audio podcast. Get our newsletter. Text the word hotel to 66866. That's hotel to 66866. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. We'll see you next week with a couple of recorded shows, because I'm going to be hosting the Remington Hospitality Management Conference. We're going to have a lot of great coverage next week. Anyway, thanks so much for being here. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
follow your passion.
See you.